Hello, welcome everyone. This is Fergus Nichol with you today for the last time on the BBC's Business Matters. In a moment, our main headline, hashtag Cryptocrash. What is going on in the world of digital currencies? Are the recent widespread falls recoverable? Later in the programme, a fire sale at Russia's biggest shipping company. We'll ask where Russian oil is going and how much of it is stuck at sea pending a sale. Let's welcome our guests this hour. Good morning to Andy Xie, an independent economist currently in Shanghai. Andy, I remember our first meeting in Hong Kong, I think it was, many years ago. Thank you so much for sticking with us and joining us again this morning.
Yeah, Fergus, very happy to be with you.
Good to have you back. We've got a lot to talk about during the programme, and we're going to start with a rather strange motto reflecting a strange week. I'm going to call it out with the new, in with the old. This week we saw the hashtag Cryptocrash trending. We saw Saudi Aramco overtaking Apple as the world's most valuable company. We'll talk about the oil business in a moment. But in fact, the tech woes weren't restricted to cryptocurrencies this week, nor were they restricted to America. Stock in Chinese companies like Alibaba and Tencent took a battering earlier in the week, as much as 7% down at one point on the Hong Kong market. Do these headlines have anything in common? Are the market circumstances completely different? Let's talk about crypto first. In China, Andy Xie joining us from Shanghai this morning. Does this make the Beijing, does this make the party congratulate itself on banning cryptocurrencies? I think it was last September. It's proven a good idea in that this instability is not something you could build on.
Yeah, I think that early on, lots of, if not most speculators in cryptos were Chinese, and these things were mined in China were burning lots of coal. So the government thought that it was undermining the confidence in Chinese currency. That's why it was banned. I think that the main issue is cryptos are not currencies. They are really instruments for speculation. And therefore, they are very vulnerable to fluctuation in liquidity. Now with inflation, rising interest rate, the dollar is up 10%. It looks really, really bad for things like that, and it's possible they end like the tulip mania.
Tulip mania. Andy, going to sort of more mainstream tech, I talked about Tencent, Alibaba dropping on the Hang Seng earlier in the week, and I wonder, is this just consumer blues reflected in the tech companies, some kind of post-COVID correction? I don't think we can say post-COVID, of course, but some kind of correction at least.
Yeah, I think that there is a rising interest rate going on in the broader world, but China has its own issues. There are two issues here. One is that the government is cracking down on internet companies, and they're viewed as security risk. The government is very worried about this rivalry with the United States, and the internet companies are heavily invested by American investors, and their technologies are linked to American systems. So there has been a crackdown, and that's affecting their business, their growth prospect. Then the other thing is that these zero COVID lockdowns everywhere, really depressing sentiment. And the stock market in general is going down a lot. I don't see that until the zero COVID situation improves, the market here will remain very depressed.
We'll talk more about COVID in the second half of the programme. Thanks for bringing it up. Let's move on here on Business Matters. The Russian shipping company Sovcomflot is one of the world's leaders in moving oil and gas around the world. The war in Ukraine has put them under severe pressure. It's now being reported that they are selling off as much as a third of their fleet to meet outstanding debts to European banks before EU sanctions deadlines expire. Put crudely, as it were, a tanker has oil on the water, i.e. it's heading out to sea on a destination that may not yet be made public, or it's in ballast, it's empty, so it has to take on seawater to sail safely, or it's got oil on board, but it doesn't have a buyer or a destination. a quick word on this from Andy, who's with us from Shanghai this morning. References to China sprinkled through that interview. How well has China done out of this, to put it crudely, in terms of extra oil imports, gas pipeline imports, and so on?
I think pipelines are working. Obviously, very hard to sanction. I think Chinese companies are different because they have assets all over the world. They are worried about secondary sanctions. I think they would not be involved. They would try to keep distance from what's going on with the Russian assets. But I think that the government in general will keep buying Russian oil and gas, but the pipeline can only do so much. There are other new pipelines that might be coming online in the near future. But right now, I think its capacity limited.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is the BBC's Business Matters. Today, for the last time, with Fergus Nicol. Now, at the beginning of the programme, or in the first half at least, if you were with us, you'd have heard Andy raise the spectre of the COVID lockdowns in China that have been continuing. Other cities getting anxious that what's been going on in Shanghai might come their way. And I wanted to pick up on that in a bit more detail, if you would, Andy. We talked about this on the show last night. Alex very kindly sitting in for me when I got a COVID diagnosis, wasn't able to make it into the office. But in terms of, tell us where you are and what your lockdown situation has been.
Yeah, I'm in Shanghai. Shanghai has been in lockdown since April the 1st. So it's 1.5 months. Actually part of the city on the eastern side, the lockdown started earlier. A lot of compounds, with the COVID cases, were locked down before that. So some of the compounds have been in lockdown for over 2 months. I think that no, it's in Shanghai. It's been very harsh. For a long time, people couldn't step out of their door, and so there was this panic over food situation. Now, I think the food situation improved somewhat because the supply chain has improved. In some compounds, like in mine, you can step out and go into the garden. This is where I am now. Take a walk. But the situation is precarious because if there is another positive case in this compound, the treatment will be more severe. There is this policy of moving people from the same floor or from the same building out into the quarantine sense, regardless if you are positive or not. In Chinese government is taking very, very harsh measures. So and this is spreading to other cities. There are a lot of cities that are being locked down for even longer, like in northeast China. But for cities that are not in lockdown, the situation is not so much better, like in Beijing. The shops and restaurants and offices are all closed.
It must have crippled every business.
Oh yeah, in April, auto sales fell by over 50%, and the property sales fell by over 50%, and the personal income tax revenue fell by something like 58%. So this is effectively a crash in domestic demand. And obviously, the May is not better. So we don't know how long this is going to last.
In China, Andy, would it be fair to say that perhaps one reason that the Chinese authorities are so anxious about the zero COVID policy to prosecute it so vigorously is because the vaccine program hasn't gone so well, especially among elderly people?
Yeah, I think there's because there are a lot of elderly people had confidence in the zero COVID approach. So they didn't see it was necessary. So that's why the government is panicking over the consequences. But so far, the cases are not really dramatic. In Shanghai's data are really large. It shows that the 90% are asymptomatic, and among the 10%, the death rate is 0.09% or 9 out of 10,000. And usually the people who died because of these severe pre-existing conditions, not the virus per se. So there are a lot of debates about if the measures are necessary.
Yeah, thank you for that. And just checking that right now, I see that China has recorded just 14,000 just. Well, we're talking about 1 million in America. It's a remarkable situation. Let's have the last words, as always, this hour from our guests. Andy, I mentioned we met in Hong Kong several years back before you moved to Shanghai. And I wonder, how free are you going to be to travel? Come and see us, get back to Hong Kong? Because it's not so easy now.
Yeah, Fergus, first wish you a great success in your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Now I think things are really changing in China. The government actually is limiting travel, overseas travel. So if you want to leave the country, it's not easy. So I think that China is going through a period. It's kind of there's pandemic going on, but it's also paranoid about a lot of things. So it takes time to go through these. I wish they will all come out of this fine.
I wish so too. Thank you so much. That's great. Listen, thank you very much indeed. And above all, thanks to the team in London who got us on air tonight. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.